A great option to house a retro gaming setup powered by the MiSTer FPGA is in a small PC case that can blend into a living room setup or an office desk. There are several options to help you do this, and one of my favorites is using DefMod's Ironclad Plus I/O board. I created an entire video on this board, so check it out if you're interested. However, that board is no longer available, but recently, 2 new versions of the Ironclad I/O board have been released. One is the Ironclad Lite, and the other is the Ironclad DX. The creator, DefMod, was kind enough to send me both I/O boards, but all opinions on this video are my own, and DefMod has no say on the content of this video. The major differences between these 2 newer boards and the original Ironclad Plus are that the new boards support all 3 MiSTer FPGA compatible boards. This includes the DE10 Nano, the QM-Tech board, and the MiSTer Pi board. These new I/O boards also do not require a PC power supply like before. Now you can use the standard power supply that comes with your FPGA board, but you still want to use a quality power supply if you plan on connecting multiple accessories. The Meanwell power supplies are great for this. But if you are set on using a PC power supply, with the Ironclad DX, you still have the option of using a PC power supply via the ATX connector. This connector is not on the Lite version. Now let's compare the 2 new boards with each other. Compared to the Ironclad Lite, the Ironclad DX has these additional features: 24-bit color analog video output, a built-in audio DAC and headphone amplifier. You can add this to the Lite version with the optional Hi-Fi blaster. Real-time clock is on board. There are 7 total USB ports. The Lite has 6. Onboard headphones jack. Tape audio input for cords supporting loading games from external analog cassettes. There's a Sega Saturn connector for RGB and S-video with LumaTrap outputs, but you can still use the VGA connectors for analog video out connections on both the DX and Lite boards. The USB ports on the DX can charge USB devices while the system is turned off. There's automatic fan speed control based on the FPGA temperature. On the DX, there's a temperature probe on the board to help with this. 2 snack ports. One is a standard USB snack port that's on a standard MiSTer FPGA setup, and there's a DB9 snack connector that can be used as a direct port for Genesis and Mega Drive controllers, or you can use the DB9 port in snack 8 mode. More on that later. You can only use one of these ports at a time. There's a built-in MT32 Pi port, so you can plug in a Raspberry Pi directly to the motherboard. Both boards contain an internal USB port. This is convenient for connecting an internal hard disk, but I personally use it for plugging in a Wi-Fi/Bluetooth dongle. For the Ironclad Lite, an advantage it has over the DX is that it fits inside even thinner cases. It can fit cases that are at a minimum of 45mm in depth, but to use 45mm profile cases, I recommend adding the MT32 Pi board to your order. If you don't, then you will have to bend the pins on this ribbon cable. If you do not do this, then you won't be able to close your case as the connector will pop out. This is not necessary for larger cases. For the DX board, you need to use a case of at least 60mm. Make sure to keep in mind your case needs when deciding on which board to get. There are some optional accessories that you can add to your Ironclad I/O board. These include the remote control kit that lets you comfortably power your MiSTer from a distance. You also have the option to add snack adapters to your order so you can use original console controllers with the lowest possible latency. For Ironclad Lite owners, there are some accessories you can buy to make your experience similar to the DX board. These include the MT32 Pi Pro internal hat. While you can use a standard external MT32 Pi through the I/O board snack port, the option to use an internal hat provides a cleaner experience without the need for extra cables outside or another device dangling out your setup. Make sure you use the Pi hat specific to your FPGA board. There is one made for the DE10 Nano and MiSTer Pi, and another hat made for the QM-Tech board. These hats are not needed for the DX board, as it has its own internal MT32 Pi port built in. And if you want a better quality audio amplifier on the Lite board, then you can add the Hi-Fi Blaster add-on. It replaces the DAC on the DE10 Nano with a better one. It also enables the HD audio header on the board to provide a true amplified headphones output. Ironclad DX owners do not need the Hi-Fi blaster because it's built into the board. Using both boards was just like using any regular MiSTer FPGA setup, so you know what to expect as far as playing games is concerned. I tried direct video over component with no issues. I also tested S-video and composite outputs, and that also worked as expected. I connected to a CRT over the VGA connector on the boards. I do not have a Saturn video cable, so I can't test that method. Remember that the DX has 24-bit analog output and the Lite has 18-bit output. With 18-bit output, you will notice some dithering in games that use a lot of colors, but it's basically unnoticeable with consoles before the 32-bit generation. Tab 2 NFC cards work just as you would expect. Using original controllers via SNAC also worked flawlessly. Now would be a good time to talk about the DB9 connector on the Ironclad DX. This is one of the ports that's used to connect SNAC peripherals. For standard USB SNAC peripherals, you can still use the USB SNAC port under the DB9 port. So why use the DB9 port? Well, this DB9 port allows the use of SNAC 8. This is a fork of the SNAC protocol that gives you some added features. When using a Genesis, Neo Geo, or Supergun controller through the DB9 port, you get the ability to control the main MiSTer menu as well as the menus for games and compatible cores. DB9 also allows you to have 2 players in cores which officially do not support them, or having SNAC support in cores that do not support it officially. And you can also use DB9 Genesis or DB15 Supergun controllers to play Super NES, NES, and other cores. SNAC 8 is not an official MiSTer FPGA feature and does require forked cores. You can enable these forked cores in the Update All script. You may be thinking about how to get access to the standard reset, menu, and user buttons. While you have those buttons on the boards themselves, it would be way too inconvenient to open up your case just to use those buttons. The Ironclad boards solve this issue by providing the actions of all those buttons through your PC case's power button. Depending on how many times you press the power button on the case will determine the MiSTer FPGA action. You also get the same functions using the optional remote control. So with these boards, you get the standard MiSTer FPGA experience with the added benefit of using the PC case of your choice, and there are a lot of options for that. Just check any store that sells computer parts and the options are almost limitless. Another option is using this case by My Retro Computer that's modeled after a Commodore 64. Audiophiles will appreciate the improved DAC on the DX that can also be optionally added to the Lite board. So both these boards provide a solid foundation for an enjoyable retro gaming experience with the flexibility to fit various setups and preferences. As always, consider your specific requirements when choosing one of these boards. Remember that the Lite version can fit smaller cases, and the DX version requires at least a 60mm case. At the time of this video, the Ironclad DX comes in at €219, and the Ironclad Lite costs €120. These boards are assembled, tested, and shipped by DefMod themselves, so there's a limit of units that can be dispatched each month. So don't be surprised if there isn't any stock or the stock is very low. I've been using the first version of the Ironclad I/O board on one of my MiSTer setups for around 3 years already, and it's been a great experience. With these updated boards, owners of all MiSTer compatible FPGA boards can enjoy the same benefits it brings along with new improvements. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and its bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.